Willem, how are you, mate?
I'm very well, and how are you?
Yeah, no, I'm really, really good. I'm not entirely sure when the podcast's going out, so I don't know if we should be talking about Christmas present, Christmas past, or Christmas future.
Oh, very ghosty.
Where are you? Are you in Christmas past, Christmas present, or Christmas future? Where are you?
Well, I don't know. I mean, how far do we take the subterfuge? Because it goes out in the new year. Do we have
Yeah,
to
this will go
pretend
out
that we
in the new
had
year.
Christmas? I can tell you how I think my Christmas that I haven't had yet might have gone.
Go on, then. Let's play that game.
It's really, really good. Thank you. How might yours not? How might yours
Apologies,
have
but
gone?
the dog's going mental in the background.
Oh,
That's
the
effect you're
whippet. The
having.
whippet. Let's talk about the whippet. What's the relationship between the dog and the? This isn't a joke. What's the relationship between the dog and the tortoise? How are they getting on?
Oh, they have no relationship whatsoever yet because the dog hasn't met the tortoise because the tortoise is in the fridge.
It's in deep freeze, isn't he? Okay, fair point.
No, he's not in the deep freeze. That would be
sorry.
in human or in tortoise.
And
He's in the
tortoise.
fridge.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine.
Kept at an ambient temperature of about 7 degrees, which is perfect for hibernation.
Lee Davis and Willem Roberts are the two IPs in a pod, and you are listening to a podcast on intellectual property brought to you by the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys.
So, guest lineup today, I think they're quite important people, or they're becoming quite important people, potentially. We've got Daniel Chu, who is the incoming SEPA president for 2023. And we've got Matt Dixon, who is the incoming SEPA vice president for 2023. And I think they're going to tell us about all the amazing things that they're going to achieve during their terms in office, which is something to really look forward to. So let's go to Daniel first. Daniel, hi, how are you, mate? Do you want to introduce yourself in the style that no one else knows you? So
Sure. I'm Daniel Chu. I'm a partner and the head of Asia Group at Hazeltine Link Kemner. And I am the current president of SEPA.
You are?
The largest IP organization in the UK.
It is. Yeah, you've remembered the brief. Well done.
Yes. I'm getting used to it.
Where are you? Where are you spending Christmas, mate?
At home. I love spending Christmas at home. We don't normally travel. My ideal Christmas is cook lots of food and then eat and then fall asleep on the sofa.
Just the same as everyone else then, really.
Go for a walk occasionally.
So let's bring Matt in. Hiya, Matt. Welcome to the podcast. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Hello, I'm Matt Dixon. So I am the vice president of the Chartered Institute of Patent Attorneys, which is the largest IP organisation in the UK.
It is. How did you know that?
Well, I've learned that today, which I think is excellent. It's a real achievement. It's good. So
There aren't that many, don't forget. So it's
well,
not a massive claim to fame.
let's not play it down. It's still quite good.
Oh, no, there's loads of IP organisations. I keep finding more all the time, actually. There are loads, but we are the largest, is that right? I gather we're very large.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So I'm currently of counsel at Cranach Patent Attorneys, which is a new startup firm that's quite exciting, and I'm joined there. And am I allowed to plug my band?
Yeah, of course you are, mate. Yeah.
All right. In which case, I am also I'm the rhythm guitarist of Ronnie Ripple and the Ripcords, who coincidentally have a new album out as we speak, available on Spotify and YouTube, called "This Girl of Mine," which I'm sure you've all listened to.
Have you got much of a following?
We've done really well, actually. So we've got we're approaching. So the aim of the game is to beat the 1,000 streams per track. So you don't have that embarrassing less than 1,000 on Spotify, which is what they show. We're about halfway there, I think.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, pretty good. Pretty good.
What about you, Daniel? Have you got any musical abilities?
You see my decks in the background and vinyls.
Whoa.
Oh yeah.
Do you get your bins on and do a bit of mixing then? Is that what you do? Is that right? Is that how it works these days?
That's what the young people say.
Me and Matt, we're gonna do something next year, maybe do a bit of remixing of your tune, maybe.
I like that.
You got a little band, haven't you, Gwilym?
We'd love that. Oh, might be coming back, actually. In fact, Lee, we were reminiscing about the old SEPA Battle of the Bands. I think
that's
look at that again, and we should have ringers in.
We should reintroduce, I think, for sure.
Well, and
Get
Lee,
Ronnie
if you
Ripple in.
want, we've got Panic on our set list.
Easy, mate. Easy one to do. Yeah.
And Every Day's Like Sunday will do as well if you want.
You're not so sure about
less
that.
Less so.
Less so.
Yeah, it's not on the set list that often.
Right. We probably ought to talk shop, shouldn't we? Really.
Yes.
So let's find out a little bit about how you both came into these offices that you hold. So Daniel, what was it that made you or encouraged you to be president of SEPA?
So I became a council member first because I was convinced that the council needed young members.
And you couldn't find any, so you thought, well, I'll do it.
They thought I was young, so I joined council. And then I thought it'd be really good to use my international contacts to promote SEPA. I've been traveling a lot ever since I've been in the profession. And I thought next year, this year, and well, in particular next year, is going to be an important year for the UK profession. I call it that, the UPC year. It's really important for us to get out there, engage with other IP organizations, get a message out about our representation rights in front of the UPC.
So all we've got to do now is hope that the UPC actually starts sometime during your presidency.
Yes.
No, it's we all know it's going to start.
I think, yeah, it's. I mean, this year we've met with quite a few IP organizations at various conferences already. A lot of them, they have been very supportive of our position, and they're happy to disseminate the messages for us to their respective members. So it's really great to have that sort of relationship.
Cool. And what about you, Matt? How did you come to the august position of vice president? The clean story.
The clean story. Yeah. So I've been on council for like 15 years, and I've always kind of been. I feel like I've been like, the Muppets that sit in the corner and just kind of say stuff in the balcony.
Statler and Waldorf, isn't it?
Yeah, that's it. I've been a bit like that, kind of in the background. And then I found myself a bit more time available, and thought, well, maybe I should do something, but I didn't. And then I went to an IPREG reception, which was excellent, and met some of the IPREG members. And then you and I went to the pub afterwards, Lee, and I mentioned that I thought I should maybe do more, and you said, "Oh, thought about being vice president," and then you bought me a beer. And then that's pretty much how it happened, I think.
Many people have ended up in officer positions because of nights in the pub, haven't they, Willem?
Yeah,
it's a bit like the old press gang kind of thing, isn't it? You go to the pub and then you find yourself on a ship.
Yeah, you find a coin at the bottom.
I didn't even get a coin
of your pint, basically. Yeah.
you find a presidential medallion or whatever it is at the bottom of your pint.
Little pair of cufflinks. So, what about you? Have you got any great plans for your year, or are you just kind of treading water until you become the august president?
Well, so what I thought about, in terms of becoming a vice president or president, one of the things that I thought was really important is not to mess things up, because I feel like SEPA's actually running really well, and that's, I think, much credit to you, Lee, and you're of course you're the continuous thread that runs through and keeps things going. Presidents come and go, as you well know. But I thought what's really important is that is not to try and not to try and be too radical and say, oh, we must be doing this and we must be doing this, because you're pretty inexperienced in that. I haven't been in one of the officer roles before, and so doing that, doing what politicians often do, and that's not gone well for some, to come in with a radical plan and say, oh yeah, we must do this. I've been waiting around, and this will be the thing. So my idea is not to mess things up, but I do. I would like to see us continue with our diversity approaches. I think that's really important to kind of broaden out the profession. I mean, we've always been good. I always think we're really good at social mobility. People come into the profession from a huge range of backgrounds, which is unlike a lot of the other legal professions, where people are hampered by the cost of getting in. With the way that we train people, it's really accessible for people from any kind of background, I think, or many kinds of backgrounds. And I think that's kind of important. But then to broaden that out to those that wouldn't have thought of doing it, I think that's important. And also with that, making it accessible to, I think things have changed for the way that our new graduates think about work, think about their development, and think about what they want out of a career. I don't think it's the same land where people would say, oh, well, what you did, you work really hard and then one day you'll be a partner in this firm and then all the riches will come to you. I don't think that suits many people. They want a sensible work-life balance. They want something that's good now and not in the future. And I think we have to think about that and support that kind of approach.
On that, I just feel that I think that's really important. That's why I think it's really important to have a diverse council. And
yes,
people representing different views, as well as younger members, as well as experienced members. And of course, we are very fortunate to have Lee, Neil, and Gwilym has been on the role for a few years. So to have that continuity is really, really important.
Oh, constitutional question, and let's go straight in. We've seen quite a few leaders around the world unilaterally extending their terms. Daniel, I'm not going to suggest that you're about to kind of just announce through some coup that you're going to continue, but is 1 year long enough for president? Do you think it is got that? I mean, it's kind of 3 years. You've got a year's build up in Vice, and then a year, and then a year's immediate pass.
Can I answer that question first off? Okay. Only because when I first came to CPAT 11 years ago this February, one of the first things that struck me was it was entirely, it didn't seem to be enough to have a president for a year. It didn't seem to give them enough time to achieve the kinds of things that they might want to achieve. So when I first walked through the door, it was like, oh, we've really got to do something to change this. And I've actually come out the other end thinking it feels about right to me. So to take Matt's point, it's not too long for someone who might be potentially not doing the gig as it should be being done, or kind of injuring the reputation of CPAT and stuff like that. Not saying that we've had any of that, of course, but it's so a short period does protect you from those really radical potential influences that you might get. Because you are in the presidency for 3 years, you get to learn the gig, you get to do the gig, and you get to pester people for another year while they try and do the same thing. So I think that works reasonably well. So I feel that it's about right, actually. But it'd be interesting to get Daniel's take on it, seeing that he's just about to stage here.
I agree. I agree with Lee, actually, because when I started my term as vice president, very naively, I thought, I try to attend every committee meetings, try to read all the papers, and then 3 or 4 weeks later, I thought, hang on a second, this is becoming a full-time job. So I learned to work more efficiently and to rely on the chair of committees as well as the meeting minutes to learn what's going on within various committees. They've done great work, by the way. And I think throughout the whole of this year, I've learned quite a lot in terms of how to manage the role. And people ask me, do you think it'll take more time next year? I think my feeling is it will take a little bit more time than this year, but I don't see it as significantly taking over my practice or my life.
Matt, you've got to try and get yourself involved in every committee right from the start. Yes, we'll see about that. But hey, it's warm and there's free tea, so that's good. No, I think it's important though that when you've got people involved in things like that, in CPAT committees and CPAT council and stuff, particularly if you want to get younger members in, that it can be seen that there are benefits for them and their employers of being involved, and that's something to look out for and to be able to sell to people in order that they can that they want to get involved. It's lovely to do it as a kind of voluntary thing, good for the profession, good for the community. But you don't necessarily have that option if you are a younger member, because you don't have the freedom in your employment. And so maybe that's something to think about, is just really focusing on making sure there are benefits for people that are involved as well, if we want to try and encourage younger members in.
Wasn't there a time when you were thinking about kind of having two people
we
sharing the
we
role?
certainly considered that in the past. Yeah, particularly for people that wouldn't otherwise be able to devote time to it. But I carry the scars, Gwilym, and I couldn't get that change or any change like that through the bylaws.
It's a good idea. Let's change it. Right. Executive order number 1.
So the one thing that no future president for the next couple of years is allowed to do is any change to the bylaws. Because only I know how horrific that is to get that through the Privy Council, and that's not happening. So, Daniel, Matt, no bylaws changes.
Right, fine. Okay, number 1 on the not mess it up list. No changes to bylaws.
unless some event comes along that causes us to reconsider who we are, and how we need to present ourselves and how membership might look, then I think we leave them well alone. Speaking of which, Daniel, I'm just wondering what cataclysmic event might be on the horizon for you, because all of our most recent presidents all immediately take office, and then something awful comes along. So we had Brexit coming along when we weren't expecting it, and that certainly derailed the presidential years for 2 successive presidents. Then we had the EU Trade and Cooperation Agreement came along, and all of the mess that was accompanying that in terms of accessing the EPO and those kinds of things. Then we had a small plague come along, and that caused things. So I can only imagine that at some point in the next 12 months, we're either going to be fighting off some zombie apocalypse. So I'm expecting you to be leading the SEPA troops into a pub somewhere in London where we barricade ourselves in and fight them off with cricket bats. Or you need to be engineering some kind of visit to a meteor that's on a collision course with Earth, so we can get up there and blow it up. That's the sort of things that SEPA presidents take on.
Of course, yeah. So I think, remember you mentioned alien invasion. So
yeah.
So I think we are preparing for that.
So at the moment, you've almost got a normal presidency coming up.
I think you're tempting fate there, Lee.
Yeah. So all of the nasties have been dealt with. Normal presidency. You've touched on the UPC. What other things are we going to do in the Daniel Chu year? What's your agenda?
The DNI aspects, I think I would like to attend more regional meetings, meet with members outside London. So hopefully, there's no COVID version 2 that will stop me from doing that. Get in touch with more members outside London. There's a chance that Congress might happen outside London next year.
Yeah, I think it's scheduled for Birmingham.
So we haven't decided on the venue yet, but it is very, very, very highly likely it will happen outside London.
Are the regional meetings enough for getting out and meeting the members? Because I'm conscious that we pitch up at 9 or 10 different events around the UK. We get 50, 60, 70, 80 members turn up. Not suggesting that we should, but I'm wondering whether you and I, and maybe Matt, ought to get out on the road and go and meet off members sort of in their places of work, see what they're up to. I
think that would be great. That's a good idea. Talk to members, understand what's really important for them, what more we can do for them locally. So in my mind, it might be as simple as providing regional meetings and CPD activities, or maybe social events. But I think by talking to the members directly, we can learn a lot more.
I'd be happy to go out on the road. I was impressed. You and Ollie were at a regional meeting. I think it was it Manchester or no, Bristol.
It was Bristol.
And the response that you get from the people there, all of our members that are in the room, when you're talking about the things that SEPA is doing, I was quite impressed by. I thought people were going to be a bit. It was the end of the day, and people are going to be a bit, can I just go and get a drink or something like that? But actually, they were really interested. They really wanted to know. They were really pleased. And some of that stuff is is challenging to communicate, because it's not the kind of thing that you can blast all over a website, because some of it's to do with complex negotiations, complex positions that we're taking, and it can become a bit dilute if you've put it into a public message. But actually, once you start talking to people, they're pleased. So if we can try and do more of that and just get visibility, I mean, there's a lot of what SEPA does that's about people knowing people, and that's tended to make it a bit London centric in the past.
Yeah.
And if we can find ways of broadening that out, and that might be technological solutions. It doesn't always have to be being there in person.
Sure.
Then that might work.
Yeah, and in addition to that, I think it's also important for us to engage more with in-house counsels, people who are in the industry, understanding what they need. I think, well, I've been in private practice for 18 years. I think Gwilym is in private practice, Matt as well. It's very natural for us when we promote the profession to put our private practice hats on. And I think from the industry point of view, their concerns and what's important for them might be very different from private practice. So I think it's important to have that interaction. It's great that we now have more interactions with IP federations by way of a monthly virtual meetings. But I think if we can do a little bit more, that'll be great.
Yeah, and that's one of the areas where it's important to communicate the benefits to employers of having their people involved with SEPA. What SEPA can do for the employers, not just for the individuals, because I think you hear that a lot from industrial departments. They're like, well, actually, what's the relevance of SEPA to us? So I think we need to look at beefing that up.
You mentioned a couple of constituents there. So we've got the kind of private practice, kind of generally, as it were, and also in-house. Do you think we get out enough to the kind of smaller practices and the one or two per people practices? How do we get to them?
It was really good. Last week, I attended the SEPA Christmas drinks. I met with quite a few people who are basically one man band actually, and they were really pleased to have that opportunity to travel down to London and interact with other members, just to even bounce ideas about each other's practice. So I think we have those opportunities, but I think we do need to reach out more widely, maybe even directly to those members, and engage with them, have that conversation.
It's been hard in the past to get engagement with those kind of small practices, also because these people are running businesses often single-handedly and they're just incredibly busy. So would like help and support, but that can be a challenge to do. There are groups out there that are non-SEPA groups that are providing support to kind of sole practitioners, small practices, and that might be something to investigate and see if we can find ways in and what we could do to help.
I think I know that on IGC, internal governance, now we have representatives from smaller firms as well. I think that's really important. And Lee, I think it's been a big effort on council, hasn't it? I think one of the great
successes in council in the last 2 to 3 years is the diversity of people coming on. And I don't mean that as much in the ordinary sense of the way we measure diversity in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, those kinds of things, but also in terms of the different experiences that people bring with them from different areas of the profession. So, I mean, I was quite concerned that we've seen, because more senior members of council have left us in recent years, and they've had a strong industrial background. I was getting a little bit concerned that the industry perspective wasn't there on council this time round. We've got 3 new members of council who all have really good industry backgrounds. So it's good to see that change. And you're right, we've now got people on council that can represent the smaller practices. But I also think another of the great successes of council over recent years, and this was a bylaws change, so was one of the areas where it was worth doing the work on the bylaws, was to include the informals formally in council, in that they're represented there, and also the IP paralegal community, so that now we have a representative from IP paralegals. And for me, that's really changed the way that council works, not least because other members of council, I think, are now more attentive to the issues that come through those representatives, which has been great.
And that's of course the whole point of diversity, isn't it? Is that you get all of those opinions from around. It makes for a better decision making because you get inputs from all sorts of backgrounds. It's classic benefits of diversity.
Doesn't mean we can be complacent. I think one of the things that I want to see is, I know it's painful, but I quite like competitive elections for council. I know it means that we lose members of council that have been given really important contributions over a number of years, and sadly that happened this time round. But I like to see the competition. I'd like to see more members wanting to involve themselves in council. It may be, who knows? Perhaps we might have future competitive elections for presidency. That would, for me, that would be an amazing thing. I would really like that many people to be interested in becoming the leader of SEPA, that it gets a bit competitive. That'd be really cool.
Certainly, when I remember voting, well, in young years when I used to vote on the elections, you'd look down, you'd just work out who were the youngest people there and vote for them. That was the rule, and that seems to follow on as well. Even now, you tend to, if you got younger people on there, they tend to get in, which is good.
Yeah, the other thing is that also, if you're new to council, if you're putting yourself forward for the first time, you actually stand a really good chance of getting on. Yeah, because the electorate, our members, will look at that and think, yeah, let's give a new voice a chance, which is good.
Yeah, which is what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And as I say, so I don't like to see people come off of council, particularly all members of council make an amazing contribution, and it's really sad to see people go off when it's as a result of some kind of competitive process. But I think it's for the better of SEPA that we get that kind of movement in council.
Can I ask about international plans? Looking a bit more the rest of the world. Daniel, I know that one thing you've mentioned throughout your kind of, when you started looking at this and since, is the idea of really kind of pushing the UK profession as a centre of excellence. You got any plans for that over the next year?
Yes, I always do. Yeah, well, as I say, I think UPC is a thing that we will use to engage in those conversations, and people are not unfamiliar with the excellence of our UK patent attorneys in litigation, not just on drafting and prosecution. So there are various opportunities that we can do that. I actually last week looked at the events and conferences that are going to be taking place next year, and the sort of opportunities we could get involved and engage with other IP organizations. June, March, and May and October looks like they look like a very, very busy month for conferences. I think international context is very important. This is part of our business, whether you're in private practice or in industry. So we got to make use of those contacts to promote the profession.
What's our USP?
Our USP, yes. Depending on who you're talking to. That's my sales
USPs. I like it. Yeah.
Hat on. US is a big market for us. We share the common culture, even the legal system. We speak the same language. They understand our humor. So I think it's more about telling why people should use us, rather than that we can represent people in front of the UPC. Really.
Oh, I was going to say the kind of common legal system, the common approach, even the adversarial approach that we used to in terms of representation. I think that goes down well in the US. We don't have the attitude of, oh, well, there's an official there that has this view, so that must be right. They're an official. In fact, we have the opposite. We have an official there that has this view. They must be wrong. And that's the approach that we would take in representing our clients. Whereas I've seen other representatives around Europe that take a very different view, are kind of, well, yeah, this looks like a sensible view, so why don't you just do that? That's not the kind of thing that we do, and that certainly goes down well with US clients. But I don't think that we can be complacent about our position. I think it's going to be really important for us to position ourselves well in the context of the UPC, and that's got to be the focus for the coming year, I think, as Daniel says. Because if we don't, we could see a decline in our status in the European patent world and in the patent world overall. We've got to try and focus that.
I think one thing that I think maybe many of our international contacts are not aware of is how much influence we have on the UPC rules and procedures. A lot of them have been borrowed from our common law traditions. The setting of IPAC, for example, and I think a lot of those have been a lot of those what we learned here setting up the IPAC has been used to contribute in setting up the UPC. It's unfortunate that we're not in the UPC, but I think we're going to be still highly influential in many ways. So I think it'll be good to get a message out internationally.
Yeah, I mean, it is a greenfield site, isn't it? As a forum, it's not copied from any one country's law or practice or approach. It's a brand new thing with so the scope for everybody to excel in it based on their own experience. We just have to excel more.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the international dimension a wee bit. Let's just think. Can I just bring us into Europe for a moment? Brexit's done. It's over. We have our deal. We know what it means for patents. We know that the EPO was never part of the EU, isn't affected by it. That's a mantra that we've rehearsed over and over. We know trademarks, designs, EU IPO, the position there, and the strategies that people have put in place to make sure that UK attorneys aren't overly disadvantaged by the way that we need to work in the future there. So Europe's done and dusted, isn't it? We don't need much of a focus on Europe, do we?
Oh, I feel that question is for Gwilym, who chairs the European Committee, I guess. Well, in case the listener are not aware, we have a relatively new committee called the European Committee. So it's relatively new. I think is one of the reason for setting that up is to engage with sister organizations in Europe and maintain those relationships. And maybe Gwilym can tell us more about that. Yeah,
that's right. Let's break the first rule of podcasting again. It's Chris Mercer's chair.
Right.
First of all, that's important because he's so well connected and got such experience and connection across Europe. It's fantastic. But yeah, I think actually, although it did not unusually, it started with a conversation in a pub with Lee. Like I think everything in IP in the last 10 years in Britain, as far as I can tell. But yeah, we were just chatting about the fact that we didn't used to have to worry about what the EU was thinking because we had a direct line into, whereas now there's a bit too much rumor and gossip and we're on the back foot, and every time a rumor comes out, we're panicking and running around because we're only hearing it second and third hand. And we're also relying on the wonderfully good nature of the kind of the UPC community who still chat to the Brits, despite the fact that we're kind of outside it. But that's not the best way to run the largest IP group in the United Kingdom. So yeah, we decided that we need to get a little bit more involved and engaged, both with the EU to the extent we can. And I think to get the position I think we've got with the EPO, which is a kind of trusted, sensible, interested party, a similar kind of role with the EU in relation to IP matters would be fantastic, and that's something we need to work on. Plus relations with our EU colleagues in other countries, and indeed the really interesting group of countries which are EPO, but not UPC, which is a specific interest group that we're a very keen member of. So all those areas, I think, need work. And Lee, in answer to your provocative question, of course, we've got to keep working on Europe, and you know it. I was going to talk about, we came off my favorite topic too early. My favorite topic is existential threats. I love them. I think they're really good for you. I think the UK profession is actually thriving and doing better than a lot of its competition, because we've had quite so many special existential threats over the last few years, which is quite a good thing. And one that worried me a little bit last year, it seems to have gone quieter, but I wonder if it's going to come back, is the ever-present cyclical anti-patent lobby. I mean, last year in particular, we saw the whole vaccine waiver thing and some pretty worrying large billboards outside WIPO apparently saying patents kill people and all kinds of awful, dreadful misinformation like that. And we do live in an era of misinformation. Do you think SEPA is doing enough broadly to make sure that society at large understands that there is a value and a role to IP, which is basically for good?
I think that's an area where our educational efforts are really important, and sensible business education. There's a risk that we can get too excited about the details of patent law, and I think communicating in a way, in a common sense business way, is the way to do it. To talk about actually how do you use patents, the advantages of patents, to say that we can that they make for clear deals. So clear licensing deals. It's not all about stopping people doing things. Yeah, it's a right that allows you to stop people, but that's not actually what most people do with their patents. You've got this weapon that you don't have to use, and you can use that weapon as you see fit, and that can be in forming a strong relationship. Because you've got clear bounds to the powers that you have in protecting your IP. It is a way of looking at it. I don't think patents kill. Rappers do.
I was I need to apologise to Matt, because people listening won't get this, but we can see one another, and Matt would have seen me with my head in my hands laughing, and it wasn't because of anything that Matt was saying. It was just because
never is.
Gwilym DM'd me about my mother.
There's more to it than that.
This probably needs to be struck out from the podcast, unless of course we've got any Goldie Looking Chain.
It must be. Are they not from Newport, the home of the patent office?
Of course. Yeah.
There we go.
The whole patent office will get these references.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, it's the patent office house band, isn't it? I think.
Yeah.
Daniel's looking entirely confused though.
No, I agree with Matt about the education is important. The awareness of how IP can be used. I think SEPA has done quite a lot in that area in terms of helping SME. We've done quite a few promotional videos as well, which has been put out on social medias. I think we should shout a lot louder about Earthshots as well. One of the winners have been nominated by SEPA.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sort of things, if we promote the sort of things a lot wider, then I think over time people learn and appreciate how IP can be used more effectively.
I think it's a great point, Daniel, particularly around the Earthshot. I think we need to make more of the way IP resides in all of the successful nominations for Earthshot, but not just that. Our members were responsible for 60 odd nominations, which we got down to 30 in our internal sift, and then 3 of those made the final 15. But our members have also been providing support for all of the 15 nominated finalists. Those that are uncertain about their IP were able to get pro bono advice around that. And we also, for the successful entries, we offer ongoing support. So the whole IP system, particularly SEPA's part in it, is about future innovation. And I think our members are doing a fantastic job around the sustainability agenda at the moment that we just don't make enough about.
I think it's about having the stories, isn't it? You want to have the stories out there to be able to tell about successful projects, how things have helped. And it's not. I mean, the patent stuff isn't easy for people to get their heads around anyway. I think, and then having those stories about, well, this is what happened. We were able to raise money because we had the IP protection to do it, and then we were able to launch the project, and then we've got this new whatever it may be out there, new product out there, new service out there because we were able to do that. I think the stories around money are important, about how businesses have been able to get off the ground because they've been able to give their investors the confidence that there is something. There's something to that business because the IP is protected because there are patents there that will go on beyond that management team if needs be. I think that's those kinds of stories, and we've tried to do some of those in some of the videos that we've put out, telling those stories. But more of that, I think, is important.
I mean, I think that's probably where we need to go with this. Is really a kind of a note for me and Gwilym. It's where we need to go with the podcast in 2023. We need to get more inventors, more creatives on to talk about how IP has been important for their businesses. Just a heads up that we've got Notpla, who are, of course, our nominated finalist, but also winner of Earthshot coming on in January. So that'll be a great opportunity to start to tell those stories. Unfortunately, guys, we're kind of at end of time. So thanks for joining us. But Gwilym and I usually end the podcast with a totally random series of questions. And I've got a couple, if that's okay. But bearing in mind it is Christmas and we started this off with a little bit of a musical angle, I'd really, really love to know your favourite Christmas tunes.
Well, so at the minute I am loving Merry Christmas, Baby Please Come Home, because that was the Christmas song we did on Saturday night with the band. And it went down, well, as you'd expect, really, but a fantastic song. I'm not going to sing it for you now, but it's a great tune.
The new one?
No, it's the old one. Just says Christmas a lot. You get all of your Christmases in one song as you go. Just repeats Christmas.
Go on, Daniel. You must have a fave.
Well, I love hearing choir singing Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Wow, that's very traditional.
Nice answer. I like the Slade one. It's a joyful song, and interestingly, apparently they wrote the tune long before they launched. They set it up as a Christmas single, and they were going to put some psychedelic words to it, and they suddenly realized, whatever, let's just make it into a Christmas song, which is why it's that really slightly haunting bit in the middle. It's actually because it was all originally quite a psychedelic song. I think it's fantastic. And as one of the Gallagher brothers says, when he screams out "It's Christmas" at the end, it's Christmas.
Well, over and over again.
That's how you make your fortune.
Every time you hear it.
It's definitely how you make your fortune.
So mine is, and I never really know whether it was a Christmas song or a song that was just popular at Christmas, but it's Frankie Goes to Hollywood, The Power of Love. It gets me every time, cracks me up, bawling my eyes out.
Oh,
yeah.
Really?
I'll protect you from the hooded claw. Keep the vampire from what more can you want?
Keep the vampire from your door. When the chips are down.
I well up. I genuinely well up. Right, so let's close on New Year's resolutions, shall we? So let's go around again. Matt went first last time, so you can go first again. So New Year's resolution could be personal or could be a very IP-related one.
Now, my New Year's resolution will be to attend some committee meetings, I would think.
I thought you were going to say council meetings. That would have been a start.
Well, yeah. You don't want to take it too far.
Daniel?
Going to the gym more? That's for January only.
Gwilym, go on.
Mine is to find out from you ahead of the podcast what your question is going to be at the end. My heart always sinks when we get this.
In which case, you'll be delighted that mine is to stop asking questions at the end of podcasts. Thanks all for coming on. It's been great.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
See you all soon.
Bye.